You know, those EEC regulations have got a lot to answer for. First, they were unhappy with the shape of our bananas. Then, they started having a go at our sausages. And don't even get me started on pounds and ounces. But now, they've gone too far.
The Aston Martin Vantage is a car that wears heritage on its sleeve. But European legislation just can't cope with its V8 engine. So they've condemned a British icon to death. For years, manufacturers have been quietly dealing with ever-toughening emission regulations, but Aston has had to give up the struggle. It has quite simply become too expensive to keep the Brussels bureaucrats happy. From next year, this car will, technically speaking, be illegal.
And so, to commemorate the end of an era, Aston Martin have turned the last 40 cars to be built into a special limited edition, the Vantage Le Mans. Whereas the Italians will carefully sculpt their supercars to blend beauty with aerodynamics, the Aston shows no such finesse. It simply threatens to suck in anything in its path and rely on its brute power to propel it to over 200 miles an hour. There's something very special about knowing that every panel, wire, nut and washer has been put in place by craftsmen who have taken 4 months to hand build your car. Whilst this fabled V8 that's been at the heart of Astons since 1969 has been lovingly assembled by just one man.
It's craftsmanship that continues everywhere. On the inside, fine leather surrounds a hand-turned dash finished in polished aluminium. And just look at those dials.
That trusty 5.3-litre V8 has twin superchargers which help it produce 550 bhp. Unless, of course, you want to spend another £13,000 to buy an extra 50 horsepower, which puts it into McLaren F1 territory. The controls are a tad on the heavy side, both clutch and gear lever needing a bit of muscle to make them move, but the steering is light and very responsive.
And to make the most of that, we just had to take the Vantage out on the track for one last time.
Naught to 60 in 3.9 seconds. 0 to 100 in 9.9 seconds. Pretty impressive figures for a car that weighs 2 tons. Now, I have to confess to having something of a soft spot for Aston's V8, because the last time I was on a track powered by one, I briefly led the 1985 Le Mans 24-hour race, and no Aston engine has ever done that since.
In 3 months' time, the Vantage will be dead. No more completely hand-built cars. And thanks to Europe, the end of the V8 and the end of an era.
But fear not, all is not lost. Aston Martin has come up with a replacement. The V12 Vanquish is their new offering, and you can get an exclusive look at that on next week's Top Gear.